Hey guys, welcome to the Q webinar. Thank you all for being here with us today. We're super excited about this one. This was probably probably the most fun I've had putting a webinar together. Just because Q is such an interesting topic, I don't think that a lot of people realize what it actually was, and a lot of people weren't even awake yet whenever the whole Q operation really hit the ground running. So what it's turned into now is something completely different than what it started as. Okay, here we go. So, as I said, QAnon then versus now. So, it is completely different. What Aaron and I just were talking beforehand, we kind of just compared this to Jesus Christ and his teachings. Uh, so, like what Jesus's original teachings were, got completely skewed and basically misinterpreted in today's time. It's not the same. People aren't really they don't really understand the original message, right? And that's kind of similar with Q. The original Q operation is completely different than what you're going to go online and find today about Q, because so many people have turned it into a religion, a cult. They've just taken the ball and ran with it. And it's become something so much more than it ever
Mhm.
originally was meant to be.
They come up with their own interpretations of what certain things mean, which, in my opinion, are inaccurate. Um, all kinds of theories that don't really have much to back them up, and then people think that is Q, or Q actually said that, and it's not true. Um, or I mean, the biggest problem that a lot of people have with Q, and I get the perspective. I totally understand why a lot of people had that perspective, is that they thought Q forced or allowed too many people to sit on their ass and not do anything, and because like, oh, you think these white hats are going to save you, or these military people are going to save everyone. And in my opinion, it's the exact opposite. What Q did was it woke up so many people and it activated so many people to join in the fight, basically, because we need everyone, as many people as possible, in it, in a wake, right? So it's the exact opposite. It's the exact opposite of that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
Um,
I think that we're gonna, kind of go through that here, and I think it's gonna really make that point.
yeah.
Uh,
And so we're going to approach this as if some of you guys have never heard of Q before. A lot of people don't know what it is. So, and this is like, it's
and
a,
it has nothing to do with politics. Also, sorry, nothing to do with right wing or left wing, and that's what the media always tries to call it, a far right, dangerous far right conspiracy theory. That's like a famous
Well, that's what right here on the
thing
screen.
to
NBC
discredit it.
News investigates rising threat from dangerous QAnon conspiracy theory. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to go through this as if you've never heard of it before, but it's a very, very complex subject. And especially if we're going to start bringing in the woo subjects like time travel, which we are because we're Journey to Truth and that's what we do. We're not even going to remotely shy away from the craziest possible theories of what QAnon could be. We're going to go there and it's actually going to be a lot of fun. But another thing is right here, it says on the screen, yet the dates come and go. This was a comment we got when we posted the trailer for this webinar. Somebody said, yet the dates come and go, still nothing's ever happened. That is one of the misconceptions. People
Hmm.
think that Q was putting out dates and predictions. They were they weren't putting out dates. They were putting out predictions somewhat, and we'll get into all that. But there were never any solid dates. What happened was some of the anons mistranslated the Q drops, and in their own decodes, they created dates. And these anons had massive following online, massive
Hmm.
followings online. So it just created this whole thing, and people would put out these dates and do these decodes, and then the whole
Right.
movement would wait for this date to come. Nothing would happen. And then people,
And then people think that Q is false because, look, this thing didn't happen on this date, when Q never said that in the first place. It was somebody else's misinterpretation and prediction,
right,
nothing to do with Q itself. Right.
right. And so that's so important to keep in mind as we go through this because it just got turned into something and people get let down. And the problem is that all these people, a lot of the followers of Q never really were reading the drops. They were just relying on their favorite influencer to do the decodes for them. And when you actually go in and read the drops compared to how, just do it, the research yourself and translate it yourself and read it yourself, there's a big difference compared to what other people are putting out. So just to preface this whole thing with that, let's get going. Oh, this is from Dimensions of Disclosure in 2018 in Loveland, Colorado, the conference that Aaron and I met at, actually. And this is
Yep.
everybody from the conference on the last day holding hands in the shape of a Q. And actually, Jordan Sather took this picture with his drone. And the idea to even do this picture was my dad's idea, actually. And it was a lot
Right.
of fun. It was a lot of fun. We were gonna do just a group aerial shot, and my dad had the idea to make the cue. Obviously, we didn't quite get
You,
it perfect,
you
but
could say this is the conference where Journey to Truth podcast started.
it really was, yeah.
This was the
But
very, very start.
I can't believe I still had this photo. I just had to add that in here. So, okay, before we get into that, we're going to be jumping back and forth. This is really hard to cover in chronological order if we are going to introduce time travel and the bigger picture here. So, we are going to explain what Q is, but it's going to be a drawn out process throughout the whole webinar. So, just stick with us and enjoy the show. And this is one of the big Q drops, the Great Awakening. Sometimes you can't tell the public the truth. You must show them. Only then will people find the will to change. Crimes against children unite all humanity, cross party lines. Difficult truths Q. And I know we haven't even got into what Q is actually yet, but this is just one of those drops that helped unite everybody. Okay, so is Q the greatest military intelligence operation of our time or a massive psyop? More than 6 years ago, insiders under the pseudonym Q shared the first post on the platform 4chan, triggering an awakening that spread like wildfire around the world. But who was behind Q? Let's find out. Aaron, I'm going to task you with reading this one. So
Oh,
this
you're gonna make me read the Wikipedia?
you, you don't have to
Horrible.
read all of it, but this is the Wikipedia explanation of Q. And actually, I put it on here because they do a really good job. They tell you and then debunk it in the same thing, but their debunk is like the worst possible debunk. But go ahead and read this if you don't mind, Aaron.
Yeah. Yeah, this is just like propaganda times
But this
100
is
right here.
we're only doing this so you know what they're saying about Q.
Right. This is what they're telling everyone, hoping everyone just buys and believes without looking any further of what it is. For one, they start out false saying QAnon because it's not QAnon, it's Q,
Which we'll get into that too.
which we'll get into that later. But that's what they always call it, right? QAnon is a far-right American political conspiracy theory and political movement which originated in 2017. QAnon centers on fabricated claims made by an anonymous individual or individuals known as Q. Those claims have been relayed and developed by online communities and influencers. Their core belief is that a cabal of satanic, cannibalistic child molesters are operating on a global child sex trafficking ring which conspired against Donald Trump. Notice how they politicize it, like
Yeah.
it's only a right wing thing. QAnon has direct roots in Pizzagate, an internet conspiracy theory that appeared 1 year earlier, but also incorporates elements of many other theories. QAnon has been described as a cult, and then it goes on.
Right.
Um,
If followers believed the Trump administration secretly fought the cabal of pedophiles and would conduct arrest and executions of thousands of cabal members on a day known as the storm or the event, which couldn't be further from the truth. Like there was no day known as the storm that they ever talked about. They just said the storm is coming. So it it's like hyper sensationalized, but
right,
it goes on to tell you like basically this is like the cabal telling you without telling you. Like they have to tell you, right?
right,
If
because
you
there is truths in here that they're trying to present it. They're saying it in a way that's they hope you buy into. Oh, it's look how ridiculous
right.
these claims are that they're trying to say, but it's actually literally the truth.
So listen, it says QAnon conspiracy believers have named Democratic politicians, Hollywood actors, high ranking government officials, business tycoons, and medical experts as members of the cabal. QAnon has also claimed that Trump stimulated a conspiracy of Russian interference in the 2016 United States presidential election to ensure Robert Mueller to join him in exposing the sex trafficking ring and to prevent a coup d'etat by Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and George Soros. QAnon is described as anti Semitic or rooted in anti Semitic tropes due to its fixation on Jewish financier uh, Soros and
So
conspiracy theories about the Rothschild family.
so somehow because you find out that Soros and the Rothschilds are a part of this cabal, that means you're anti-Semitic because they happen to be there happens to be some Jewish people, and
Right.
that's a whole other rabbit hole. But like, it's so funny, like the false correlations and all the false like, oh, it's anti-Semitic because you're calling out George Soros and the Rothschilds, so clearly it's anti-Semitic and they all hate you.
Well, but
No,
they're
that's not how
telling
that
you,
works.
they're telling you. They
Right.
said they said the core belief is that a cabal of satanic cannibalistic child molesters are operating a global child sex trafficking ring which conspired against Donald Trump. Every word in that
Right.
sentence is true. It's not
Right.
it's not
Right, but it's not just
lame.
Donald Trump.
Right.
He's Donald Trump is one person that's working with a giant team of, you could call them white hats if you want, or the alliance, or just military, the positive factions of the entire military industrial complex.
So we can
It's
go
not
on
just
reading.
Donald Trump and his administration, which is what they try to make it
Right.
sound like. This is all just Trump and his administration, and then it's all just extreme far right people making up conspiracies and that are delusional or something. That's what they want you to believe, or
So
that they're racist and blah blah blah.
so I'm actually going to read this next paragraph because it's actually helpful. Although it has its origins in older conspiracy theories, the first post by Q was in October 2017 on the website 4chan. Q claimed to be a high-level government official with Q clearance with access to classified information about the Trump administration and its opponents. Q soon moved to 8chan, making it QAnon's online home. Q's often cryptic posts became known as drops, and they were collected by aggregator apps and websites. QAnon became a viral phenomenon beyond the internet and turned into a political movement. QAnon followers began to appear at Trump campaign rallies in August of 2018, and Trump amplified QAnon accounts on Twitter. QAnon conspiracy theories have also been relayed by Russian and Chinese state backed media, social media troll accounts, and the far right Falun Gong associated Epic Media Group. So that just gives you a little background. So we're going to move on from that. Okay, so if this is such a psyop like everybody thinks it is, this is what got this is I think it was solely because of Q that the whole purge happened when we lost all of our original accounts, social media accounts, PayPal, Linktree, Venmo,
It is.
Instagram, Spotify, Twitter, all of it. I
It
think that
was, yeah,
go
they
ahead, Henry.
marked any pages, any YouTube accounts that they deemed as QAnon in quotes. And then they like hit a button and they all were deleted all at once.
Right.
At least they did waves of that. And we were in that, not our YouTube at that time, but our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter
Everything.
at that time all got deleted and we had to restart all those
But
at
so
that time.
what's interesting was we used to heavily cover Q and we were obviously one of the targets. But
Yeah,
this
back
is
then we were talking about it a lot more because it was in the heart of when Q was posting. So we
so
were
this is from right now. If you go on Facebook and try to search Q or QAnon, this is what you get as a result. Zero results. This search may be associated with harmful content. This search may be associated with QAnon, a
right.
violence inducing conspiracy theory. Experts say QAnon and the violence it inspires are a significant risk to public safety. For more information about Q, blah, blah, blah. That is what you get when you try to look it up on Facebook. Like, tell me why they would need to do that if this is just all hearsay and there's nothing to Q and it's all psyop. And Donald
Well,
Trump is the
it's classic, you're calling out the control system. You're awakening people, and they're going to do everything they can to psychologically manipulate people against that, right? And they're going to call it violent, they're going to call it racist, they're going to call it dangerous, which they do. This is all the terms they use for it
right,
to not only keep people away from it, but to activate this disgust mechanism in as many people as possible towards it, so that people, instead of waking up from it and doing their own research and realizing the people telling you that are connected to the evil in the world, they're going to make you think that thing is evil and have people attack the people that are spreading truth and waking you up, and
right.
Q itself, obviously. So it's a classic, like, the psychopaths, what they do is they try to project what they're doing onto the people that are a threat to them, or they try to divert people to the people that are a threat to them, as far as they're the enemy. Fight
Right.
them, not me. I'm innocent. Right. So it's
So,
classic. Been going on for
so
eons.
yeah, so here we go. On May 10th, 2019, Twitter announced that they suspended 166,513 accounts for promoting terrorism in the July to December 2018 period, stating that there was a steady decrease in terrorist groups trying to whatever, blah blah. It just goes on talking about this. But I'm just showing you guys, this is the start of the Twitter purge. 166,000 accounts just in 2019. And then they did the big purge even after that was, and then they, for the first time ever, they removed a sitting president's social media account, even though presidents using social media wasn't such as a big of a thing as it was when Trump was here. But they even removed the permanent suspension of Donald Trump's Twitter, um, just to show you how scared they were, and
Yeah.
all for what? A psyop,
Right. Their reaction to it proved that it
right?
was real, because you would not,
Um,
if this was just some dude in his basement or some random dude uh doing a hoax, they would not be they wouldn't have done 90% of the stuff that they did in reaction to Q, in reaction to the movement that it created, and
and
the people that it woke up.
this I didn't even know about, but my friend at the time, who wasn't into any of this stuff, he was big into golf. He was a big golfer. This was back when it happened in 2018 or whatever. He messaged me. He's like, dude, what is this QAnon thing people are talking about? I'm like, why? He goes, Scott Pearson just had 3 sponsors drop him for making a post on Instagram about Q. And I was like, no shit, but it's true. So this guy, Scott Pearson, all he did was make a one single social media post talking about Q, and 3 of his sponsors dropped him. Tell me that we're not, tell me that's not controlled. Uh, that's not, the media is not controlled if that's what happens.
Right.
And this, I went to his current Twitter account now, and he has this pinned. I have made quite a few trips around the sun, and I remember when elections were always determined the night of, or at the very latest the next day. Um, just interesting. Like he still holds that stance, obviously, but you were not allowed. You were not allowed to talk about any of this stuff. And this was the same exact time when Zach Voorhees came out talking about he's a Google whistleblower. They talked about Google was blacklisting Trump, and if you typed in
Yeah.
Trump, it would actually bring up, or even if you typed in Hillary Clinton, it was programmed to bring up negative stuff about Donald Trump, like and anything
And
positive about
only
Trump,
positive about Hillary Clinton. Right.
and anything positive about Trump was scrubbed from the internet. And Zach
Yeah.
Voorhees saw firsthand the blacklist of words that they were using. And there's a
It-
whole thing there. They even
and
changed the
way
definition.
more than just that. They were doing all kinds of
Right.
manipulation with their algorithms and
So when
all
Trump
kinds of stuff.
when Trump tweeted Kofefe, and I forgot what it even means at this point. It was like all rise, or what did Kofefe mean? And we should have been
I
a
will
slash.
stand. I will stand.
Yeah.
I will
So
stand up, or I will stand, something like that.
everyone thought was making fun of Trump for like misspelling this word or not knowing what it meant, or something in a tweet. But what Google actually did was they literally went in the back end and changed the definition of covfefe to make Donald Trump look stupid. in the dictionary. They were changing definitions of words to
Yeah,
make him look stupid.
they did that multiple times
Right.
with things. I remember that. Yep.
Okay, so then Florida SWAT officer is demoted after wearing a QAnon patch. I mean, that's how ridiculous this was
For
getting.
wearing a patch with the letter Q on it.
Right.
Right? That's how threatened they are.
And people out there still think there was nothing to it. Oh, it's a psyop. Okay, so here is one of the drops, and we'll get into the very first drops, but this is one of the drops that says there is Q, there are anons, there is no QAnon. Media labeling as QAnon is a method deliberate to combine, attach Q to comments, theories, suggestions, statements, and actions made by two. What happens when you cannot attack the information? Primary source one. Do you attack and typecast through use of others? Not all anons are authentic, injected. You are correct. CJ. Retweet 1717 had meaning, mathematical probabilities. You know, they get into some stuff that really doesn't make sense sometimes. Do you believe it was a coincidence? Surgical removal of YouTube accounts occurred the same day as Hunter dropped. Welcome to the digital battlefield Q. So they're kind of telling you,
Right.
obviously,
You think
like
that was
this.
just a coincidence?
And
That right.
and then here's a drop where they literally say number 17 Q, just to make the connection. We all know Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet. And when we couldn't say Q anymore online, we all had to start saying 17. All right. Okay, so this is I promise, guys, this gets a lot more fun and we get into all the time travel, ET connections, and all that stuff. But we're just kind of,
Yeah.
this
We
is what
gotta we gotta set the stage first. And not everyone
this,
knows what Q is, so we gotta go through all this as
and this
well.
is David Whitehead, a great researcher and online influencer that he just is a really good clip of him talking about Q.
Yeah, about the whole 17 thing. I followed that from the beginning, mostly in and out, very curious about it because of the statements that were made. And I
Right.
often tell people that have problems with it, they're like, look, nothing happened. It was a big psyop. I'm like, well, we were given intelligence information that honestly, people in my community, I came from the old school truther community, back to the days of like Ted Gunderson, William Cooper, all the original guys, you know, Jordan Maxwell, Michael Cesarian, David Icke. I came from that group and they were looking at it from the outside. And then when we started having this anonymous poster covering a lot of that information and just telling people stuff, and seeing the movement of it, I was like, wow, this is incredible. There must be something to it. So, you know, I'm still fingers crossed. I can't wait to see everybody getting towed away in handcuffs and all that stuff. Maybe it's already happened. I don't know. But what I do tell people is, have you even gone and read any of those posts yet and seen what was shared? And yeah, people made predictions about it, but that's people making predictions. That doesn't mean it's the thing itself. So it's become a really divisive topic in the alternative community. And so what I try to focus on is not focusing on the post or the guy. I just go to the actual source and go, here it is. Here's what's actually going on. And in the end, we need to awaken these people. We need to get freedom on the move, and we need to take our countries back. And I think that's what the whole agenda was. I think it was a psychological operation, but not all psychological operations are bad, and they're not run by always the bad deep state players. Sometimes it's a counter to countering all of this media propaganda. And I saw in those posts, they're encouraging the Socratic method. They were encouraging independent thinking. They were encouraging strong community, core values of the country. Pay attention to these video clips, watch the symbolism, all these things that you never really got from so many other elements in this movement, that I was like, wow, if this is a psyop, what an amazing psyop, because it's actually getting people to pay attention to things they weren't paying attention to before. So, and then it's been interesting to watch Trump's journey. It's been really a roller coaster to watch what's gone on. I still don't get the whole support of the vaccine thing, but I'm just going to assume there's either he's got bad info or there's another agenda behind that. It's all optics or something. But other than that, Trump has been the guy that came and tipped the apple cart and started making waves and calling out all the globalists and pointing out these things. And when you see there's been a correlation to a lot of these drops and a lot of this intel, it makes you wonder. So I stay open about it. But I always tell people, if you don't even like getting into that stuff, you can independently verify a lot of this information for yourself. And you don't have to be a part of any clique if you don't want to. It's all there. And that's what I try to do on my show. I've been doing it since even before Q was around or any of these guys. And I just like seeing that. And now people are more aware of it. And I get people sending me all these videos that they're taking apart, all the interviews, all the red carpet events, the Queen ceremony, the Queen funeral, and they're picking out the symbolism. And I'm like, okay, good. Now we're getting into the real level of awareness of this stuff. So
Yeah,
that's what's
exactly.
positive about it.
Yeah. Right. And he mentioned about the
Perfectly
vaccine.
said.
He mentioned about the vaccine. Don't worry, we're going to get into Operation Warp Speed at the end and what we think that's all about. Okay, so this is just something I scrolled across on Telegram, but it's a good explanation. Q is a multi-year process of disclosure of secret illegal government activity, a prophylactic against civil war and vigilante activity, a training program in discernment and logical thinking, an information weapon against institutionalized crime and corrupted media, a psychological operation to wake up the masses using questions so we, the people, dig for answers and change internally, then share and spread the word, creating change on the outside. So that's just a good synopsis of kind of what Q is. And we're going to, by the way, we're going to go into like 10 different explanations of Q, and we're going to have a lot of videos of different people explaining Q just because we're going to bring in some different perspectives and it really all fits together nicely. So if anybody doesn't know, so Q originally came out on 4chan, which is, Aaron, do you want to read this?
4chan is an anonymous English language image board website launched by Christopher Moot Poole in October 2003. The site hosts boards dedicated to a wide variety of topics from video games and television to literature, cooking, weapons, music, history, anime, fitness, politics, and sports, among others. Registration is not available, and users typically post anonymously. As of 2022, 4chan receives more than 22 million unique monthly visitors, of which approximately half are from the United States.
So it was
So
just
it's an anonymous message board,
right,
essentially, completely anonymous.
exactly. And Q eventually, I think that got hacked or something happened,
Yeah.
and Q had to move over to from 4chan to 8kun or 8chan, 8kun, same thing.
Q's trip code got hacked somehow on
Right.
4chan.
So they moved over to 8chan, which is basically just another version of 4chan.
Yeah.
But they kind of solidified their security a little bit better with this one. And that's where the remainder of the drops, that's where people will go and wait for the drops to come in. And you really had to know how to use it. It wasn't that user friendly to get on there and actually find the drops. And there's a lot of connections to the dark web on there and all kinds of stuff. So it's just a playground on the internet that not that many people are aware of, the typical everyday user. So one of the interesting things is Pepe the Frog. I'm sure you guys have seen this around, going around everywhere. This was prominent in the Q movement. It became like the mascot. But I started wondering, I'm like, how does this become the mascot for Q? What, there's got to be something behind it. Like they're always talking about like symbolism will be their downfall. Well, this is also symbolism. I'm like, what does this mean? So this is what the media tells you it means. Pepe the Frog is a humanoid frog character or cartoon character who became a popular internet meme in the early 2000s and was notoriously appropriated by white supremacists during the 2016 US presidential election. So it's a white supremacist symbol, according to them. The unassuming cartoon frog became so established as a racist symbol that the Anti Defamation League labeled Pepe the Frog as a hate symbol in September of 2016. Around this time, the Clinton campaign released their own explainer on Pepe, commenting that the cartoon frog is more sinister than you might realize. So, why are they so scared of this symbol and why do they have to demonize it? Well, there's an Egyptian frog called Hecht, which is an Egyptian god, basically. And if you look at what this ancient Egyptian religion says about Hecht, it says it was a frog headed goddess who personified generation, birth, and fertility. Hecht was sometimes depicted with the body of a frog, and frog amulets were common in ancient Egypt as charms of fertility. Why did God send frogs to Egypt? frogs, because they dwell in both land and water, represent the undoing of this ordered separation. Yahweh is returning Egypt to a state of disorder and chaos in judgment for their evil. So it's almost like the frog returning to judge all of the cabal for their evil, the way I see that, this symbolism. Like, I think there's something much deeper behind it just being a cartoon. And I think it relates to this. Did you have anything to say about that, Aaron?
No, that sounds fitting to me, definitely. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Right. I mean, I don't. I mean, and look at there is no coincidences. There's no way
Right.
that it's not related.
Right.
And
Exactly.
and there's another and Keck was also very popular, which was supposed to be when you type in LOL and I forgot what language, it would come up as KEK, Keck.
Yeah.
Eh, but actually, Keck is another Egyptian god that had something to do with Hecht as well. So it was very interesting, the connection. There's a lot more symbolism to like some of the random subtleties within the Q movement. Okay, so why did we even need Q in the first place? Everything has meaning. This is not a game. Learn to play the game Q. That's from a drop March 8th, 2018. Well, the deep state had a plan, and this is like the biggest in a nutshell you can ever put this plan into ever. But they create the Federal Reserve in 1913, stripped the gold standard. It's not a Federal Reserve at all. It's actually a private corporation. They formed a committee of 300. They take over every industry, solidify the deep state into CEO positions, take control of medicine, education, and all the three-letter agencies, actually. And they were just embedded throughout our entire infrastructure. They replaced the presidents with actors slash reptilians. Yes, reptilians, and we're going to get into that. They poison and mind control the population, and then they move players into position for World War III. The final player that they were going to move into position was Hillary Clinton. And there's a lot of people that were talking about Hillary Clinton being that final piece and ushering in World War III. And we're going to get into that, which is very interesting. And this is where we get into the yellow cube and looking glass technology and a lot of predictions that were made. And this is an action figure of Hillary Clinton being the reptilian that she is or was, if she's even still
And
alive.
and many people, even outside of the Looking Glass and the Yellow Cube, many people that are either very psychic or that were able to have their own visions of the future on that timeline saw Hillary Clinton becoming president and then saw World War III, a nuclear World War III,
Right.
and just massive, just like unbelievable devastation and death and destruction on
And
that
then,
timeline. But Hillary Clinton on that timeline, everyone saw Hillary Clinton being the president.
and so this book talks about World War III may still arise as warned since 1990. Like they've been planning this shit forever. It's like
Oh yeah,
it's
they
not,
plan
yeah.
stuff way, way, way.
But notice how it's kind of like fallen on its face. All their attempts did, and that might have be largely related to the Q operation, and we'll get into that. Whether you think nothing happened or not, you might think differently by the end of this webinar. And then, so guess what? They moved Hillary into place. They weren't expecting Trump. And if they were, they thought that he had no chance and he was basically a non-threat, probably, because they thought they had their technology, their yellow cube technology that predicts the outcome of elections and all kinds of stuff. But that technology is skewed through the lens of the user, basically through their ego. So the it shows you the outcome that you would desire, the desired outcome of the user, but not the actual outcome. There's variables that could change. And but anyway, so Donald Trump announces a 2016 White House run. And we're sorry if you guys get triggered by Trump or think he's deep state or don't like him. He's part of this story. We can't talk about Q without talking about Trump. And this goes beyond politics, and we'll explain why. And then this is just a video to show you how confident they were that Trump would never win. This is how arrogant they were. They thought it beyond a shadow of a doubt because they saw the future with their technology. This is why you see exactly what you see in this video.
There's not going to be a President Donald Trump.
Donald Trump will not become president.
Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. take it to the bank.
Okay.
I guarantee it.
All right.
I think that man will be president of the United States right about the time that spaceships come down filled with dinosaurs and red capes.
Donald Trump has been saying that he will run for president as a Republican, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke.
Donald Trump, just last week, he confirmed to the National Review that he is again considering a run in 2016.
Do it. Do it. Look at me. Do it. I will personally write you a campaign check now on behalf of this country, which does not want you to be president, but which badly wants you to run.
I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president. Mr. Trump will not be president.
He will never be president of the United States.
And we better be ready for the fact that he might be leading the Republican ticket next. I know you don't believe that, but I want to go on.
Sorry to laugh.
Okay, here we are. And which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones, right now, Donald Trump.
And so, right now, Mr. Trump, to answer your call for political honesty, I just want to say, you're not going to be president. There is zero chance we'll be seeing you being sworn in on the Capitol steps with your hand on a giant golden Bible.
Donald Trump will never, ever be president of the United States.
Donald Trump will never be elected president of the United States.
Donald Trump is the here today, gone tomorrow candidate for president of the United States. Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Ever respectful of the fact that the people have not voted, he's not going to be president of the United States.
Anyway, it keeps going on and on. It's a long video. So I just wanted to show you, like, there, for one, once he ran, all of the demons came to the surface within all the news anchors, all the politicians. You could see it in their eyes. I mean, you saw the devil inside.
Hatred, right there. And if that's not mind control, I mean, come on. I don't know what it is. Telling you over and over and over and over and over again what to think, what to believe.
Because
saying the same mantra phrase, that's what they're trying to program into you. Donald Trump will not become president. They're hoping we manifest that.
And it'll make a lot more sense why they were saying that here in the next few slides. But now we're going to introduce time travel. And thank God we started reading the Sands of Time series, Sean David Morton, because it actually played a lot into this webinar and helped us understand the reality of time travel. And this is a quote from book 1 that kind of just paints the picture of the reality of the situation here on Earth. He goes, they take out one of you, they will get both of you. Basically saying if they talk, then they're going to take out not just one of you, but both of you if you expose these secrets. Why would they do that? Ellen asked more out of curiosity than fear. Because you two are now in possession of one of the biggest secrets in the world. Oh, not the part about the alien invasion coming. That is so far out there, nobody would ever believe you. You can scream that from the rooftops if you want. The secret is you two actually know that a man can travel through time and has done it. That means there is a way to move from one place in time to another point in time and back again, which means you can control the whole game. Think of the magnitude of that statement. Means you can control the whole game. The guy I work for wants that power more than anything else in the universe, and he will do anything to get it, including wiping out whole nations if necessary. Now you might be thinking, well, what is this book? Where does this information come from? Here's the introduction from the book. And Aaron, if you don't mind reading that introduction, it's crucial to understand where this information comes from because we're going to reference this book a few times.
Many years ago, a powerful, mysterious man in black approached the author. He lived his life as a high-level scientist and top director in the above top-secret black world of shadow government projects. He admired the author's undaunted quest to bring the light of truth to the world, beginning a feed of crucial insider information to be released to the public via his TV and radio appearances on Coast to Coast AM to 26.5 million and being a founder of both UPN, CW, and the Sci-Fi Channel. He desperately wanted to get the truth out to the world before it was too late. as our planet was in grave danger, but he could only tell the whole story after he had moved on, to use his exact words. In 2009, after a phone call while attending Obama's inauguration, high-end Century City-based lawyers presented the author with a stack of leather-bound personal diaries, which were the basis for the Sands of Time series. This only being done with ironclad NDA agreements that the author changed relevant names to protect his still living family and those active in operational projects. So after decades of silence, this truly incredible real-world history can finally be told, putting all the puzzle pieces together of dark science, black ops, visitor involvement, and secret government conspiracies that have baffled those seeking the truth for so many years, with many giving their lives and freedom to do so.
Right. And this is a book review from the late Dr. Fred Bell. I have been involved in top secret projects for most of my life. I cannot believe Sean David Morton has the courage and sheer guts to finally publish the whole truth about everything that has gone down in the last 40 years. Sands of Time is not just a fantastic spellbinding read, it is scientifically accurate and truly historic document of what someday will be told to mankind as a true history of this planet. The books are loaded with gold information about the history of the shadow government, the ins and outs, the origins of time travel. So anyway, that's what those books are about. Okay, so and this is the thumbnail from our interview with Sean David Morton. We did a 2-part interview with him. I highly recommend checking it out. You can find those on our Rumble channel.
Yep.
So this is Andrew Basiago talking about the deep state capabilities. And if you don't know who Andrew Basiago is, he claims to be part of a government time travel program. And he's got one of the most credible testimonies that I think I've ever heard. And I think you would agree, Aaron.
Yeah. I mean, his level of detail is just extraordinary.
Right.
And he's
so let's listen to what Andrew Basiago says that they're capable of.
The deep state has had communication between dimensions for 50 years, and that has to matter. The conception that Weber has arrived at of a chronarchy on some level has to be true. Because when I was on Project Pegasus as a child, I met in the early 70s, I met both Presidents Bush, 41 and 43, and President Bill Clinton, when they had just been told of their presidencies years later. So I don't think they were engaging in making presidents, but I do know they were engaged in informing presidents of their destinies as leaders of this country. So we have to ask, what else have they been involved in studying in the future so as to manipulate events via something like teleportation-based time travel by going there, or chronovision by looking at it, or chronovision by standing in the hologram and going there. They were able to study past and future events to get more information, more intelligence, which is the function of the CIA, right? 80% of the CIA are analysts, right? Not operatives. But it's difficult to change the past or future, if not impossible, so that, and still preserve at least the quality of the information you've collected. So it's a bit of an oxymoron if you try to change it. So I don't believe we've been changing the past or future, but I do believe they've been studying it to engage in contingency planning. But after all, those are their contingencies, not necessarily ours.
So he, in that episode, he was talking about they had the ability to go to the future and gather intel, but if they brought that intel back and actually tried to change something, their intel would be no good because they would change the outcome of the event. So they can only use that intel to a certain extent without changing the entire future. It's very complicated, but this is him explaining that this is exactly what this war looks like. It's a temporal war. This isn't just a surface level, we don't have any technology, political war. This is something far beyond what I think many people realize. And I think that's what the Q operation it was. I think it was the only way that could have been possible. The only way that you could even have the balls to pull off an operation like Q is if you had access to some type of technology that allowed you to see future events, because you could never stand up against the deep state who has access to that technology unless you also had access to that technology. And then
Exactly.
this is 1988. We heard Andrew Basiago just tell us that presidents Presidents were told of their destiny. They knew they were going to be presidents years before they ever even ran. Like they select their candidates at a young age. And this is Donald Trump in 1988.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone in to lose in my life. And if I did decide to do it, I think I'd be inclined, I would say that I would have a hell of a chance of winning, because I think people, I don't know how your audience feels, but I think people are tired of seeing the United States ripped off. And I can't promise you everything, but I can tell you one thing, this country would make one hell of a lot of money from those people that for 25 years have taken advantage. It wouldn't be the way it's been, believe me.
From your very own Oprah. But that's 1988, already talking about it. I mean, come on, he knew something.
Yep.
And so this is a clip from Bill Wood, which was uploaded on January 17th, 2012, an interview with ex-Navy SEAL Bill Wood, who during the years of 1992 to 2000 was sent on top secret bombing missions in the Middle East, predominantly in Iraq. He was then trained in Area 51 as a specially gifted group of highly classified spies to see beyond the famous looking glass technology into the future involving 2012 and beyond, groundbreaking in every way, Carrie Cassidy, Project Camelot. So this clip is actually Bill Wood talking specifically about the yellow cube technology.
Can you also verify that leaders of...
But let me say one thing about the yellow book and its differences with looking glass. The yellow cube or the yellow book would give you your possible future.
Yes.
So it took basically the choices that you would inherently make along a timeline and tell you what that timeline would be, given that you made all the choices that your brain would make.
Well, this is exactly what I was just going to ask you. What we were told is that leaders of governments and so on, people in high places, politically, would use this to try to see their most optimum future and then follow those. So they were using it to enhance their wealth, et cetera,
Yeah.
in a very egotistical way. And that was part of the problem with it. And that supposedly one of the specific things we were told had to do with Hillary. Are you aware of any of that?
You mean the 2012 protection for her?
Well, will you tell me what you know?
I don't have any first-hand knowledge of this. This is all back alley information. But one of the last predictions that was put out by the Yellow Cube was that, for all intents and purposes, and this is just my level of understanding, is that Hillary Clinton would be president in 2012. And the first question that anybody that knew anything about the process would know is who was using the cube
right.
when it made that prediction. If I knew that, then I could tell you why it would predict what it predicted. Basically, what we're experiencing right now is two master chess players sitting at the board. And one of them looks down at the board and sees that he's in checkmate in 7 moves. And he looks across at his opponent, and he knows that his opponent sees it too. So there's no getting out of it. So at this point, the loser can only prolong the game. The game, both players know the game is over. It's only a matter of time before he does this, and then you're forced to do this, and then he's forced to do this, and eventually checkmate. Yes, there's moves left on the table, but those moves are being forced by the player that is going to win.
And that player that's going to win is the Awakening.
Humanity. Ultimately.
But that's so true. And how many times did Q talk about 5D chess? We'll get into that too. But it's amazing. This was from 2012, and obviously Hillary didn't become president in 2012 because the looking glass technology couldn't see past 2012. So there was a lot of unknown variables at that moment in time. So instead of 2012, they went for the 2016 election for Hillary.
Yep. They tried
And
2012, didn't work. They tried 2016, also didn't work.
and this is interesting because we're going to get into Trump being a time traveler too. This is how woo this thing gets. But this was a hit piece that Chelsea Handler did on her channel, on I guess this was her YouTube channel, on making fun of Trump being a time traveler. And the whole video consisted of her showing these President Trump tweets, seemingly showing him predicting the future. And they had to turn it into a big joke like, oh, he must be a time traveler if he knew this. And this is one of the tweets. Be prepared. There is a small chance that our horrendous leadership could unknowingly lead us into World War III. That was August of 2013. So he even knew that they were planning for a World War III if Hillary got in office. And you don't make a video like this unless there's some truth behind it and you're scared of something. This is all fear-based. And Chelsea has got to be one of the biggest paid informants to put misinformation out about Trump. I mean, she has to be. And then this is Augie Nost. We interviewed him, and this was his when he looked into the other timeline. This is what he saw with Hillary.
I've had some peaks at different timelines later. One timeline coming out of 2016 is that Hillary won the presidency. And we all went through World War III, a nuclear war. Hillary started that. And it didn't go very well. Luckily, none of that happened. That kind of violence does not solve problems. Now I understand why it did not happen. It was because of a shift in timelines.
It goes on and on. He goes on to explain it. And if you want to know what he says more in detail, you can go watch our recent episode with him on time travel. But that was what he saw when he glimpsed into the other timeline. Hillary Clinton.
But as he said, right. But as he said at the end there, why it didn't happen was because we shifted timelines.
How did the timeline shift occur? Was it 2012 or did it have something to do with the Q operation? That's what we're going to find out. And just for fun, because we can't talk about time travel and the Trump presidency and Q without talking about The Simpsons predicting the future literally every step of the way for the past however many years. Were they using the yellow cube technology? Who were the Simpsons writers and who were they involved with? What were their ties? As we know, this is from in the year 2000, an episode of Simpsons about Trump being president. In 2015, the very same exact scenes that were depicted in the Simpsons episode actually happened. And this next slide is a video of that, comparing them side by side, just to show you the dead accuracy of the Simpsons predictions and the reality of what happened 15 years later. There's no audio to this, but watch closely. That's Trump and Melania coming down the escalator. Hand up, wave at the exact same time, all the way down to this sign falling. Tell me that they know the future so far in advance. They know exactly what's going to happen. Tell me that's just a coincidence.
In the fist right after the wave, right?
Right.
Everything is exact.
There are no coincidences. So if Simpsons knew that Trump was going to be president, certainly he knew. But I think the deep state psychotics are delusional and sociopaths, they're sociopaths. And they truly believed that they were going to win because their own delusions, their own ego skewed the results of the yellow cube technology, and they couldn't see past their own desires, basically. And this is just so interesting. Why were they so afraid of Trump? So that I accidentally stumbled across this. I literally went to Google and typed in Rumble logo. I was looking for a Rumble logo to put in one of our videos, and this popped up. This is why you must hate Donald Trump. A Rumble, like of course, this pops up when you type in Rumble logo. Tell me why that happens. Because they know Rumble's a free speech platform.
Again, goes right in line with they're trying to mind control everyone to hate Donald Trump, to hate Q, to hate all of that whole movement. But especially Trump, because he kind of represents, he was kind of like, you could say, the leader of the whole thing in a way, and represents the whole awakening movement in a way. So they kind of focus their attacks on him, and they wanted everyone, they try to convince the whole world, everyone they can, to hate Trump. And instead of looking at over here at the truth, they try to divert your attention to hate Trump.
Right. And
hate all of this stuff.
But why were and why are they so afraid of Trump? And here's why. This is where it gets good. This is a William Tompkins interview with Kerry Cassidy. If you don't know, he's a former U.S. Navy whistleblower who came out with some incredible information about the secret space program, including what he's about to share right here about the presidents.
But then they have the ability to shift and look like a human. All of them do. Okay?
Okay, do you think von Braun was a reptilian?
No.
You really don't?
No.
Okay.
Your president, yes.
Oh, which one? George Bush Sr.? Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
And Bill Clinton and this guy you got
Obama.
rid of. Yeah.
Yeah.
They all were.
Right.
Okay. So, and they all have this ability to make themselves look like real good-looking people.
And you're saying Trump isn't one?
No, he's not. Okay.
Well, that's a relief.
And and he knows more about this subject than people realize.
Oh,
okay.
Excellent.
So he
knows more about this subject than people realize.
And he just said Bush, Obama, Clinton were reptilians. And William Tompkins' testimony is a solid testimony. And if you've read his books and listened to his interviews, what he just said carries a lot more weight if you know his credentials.
And I'm sure people like Soros, Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab.
They all are. Or if they're not shapeshifters, they're oversold by some reptilian entity.
Right.
Which is one of the big things that all the QAnon people, the people that make fun of the Q movement, they make fun of the whole reptilian thing. Like, how ridiculous. You're trying to say these people are lizards, Well, that's exactly what we were saying. Tyler Koala and Aaron Kuhn from Sharing the Truth are telling you right now that
what makes something ridiculous and crazy.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like just because you're not taught something in schools and it's not a normalized thing in society, anything outside of that you could say is crazy and ridiculous. Well, when you actually do your research, you find out most of the truth is outside of that box. It's going to sound crazy to people that have never actually done the research themselves and staying in the box of society. Yeah, it's going to sound crazy. It doesn't mean it's not true. Right.
So this is actually our friend Chastity, who's in the chat right now, shared this with me on Instagram. And this is from an episode of CSI from January 10th, 2023. And this is, again, the truth in your face. Listen to what they're saying.
Hey, isn't that
Yeah. You can see Dick Cheney, Al Gore, all 9 Supreme Court justices shapeshift into reptilians. Did you know that for thousands of years, creatures from the constellation Draco have been mating with humans to form a super race that includes 43 U.S. presidents, most members of Congress, and the entire British royal family?
So it goes on a little bit, but that was the key information. They just got done telling you that 43 of our U.S. presidents were part of a super race from the Draconian star system.
That is a perfect example of telling you the truth in plain sight, telling it to you, but it's a show, so people just they just think it's a fictional show, right? But they're literally just telling you the truth.
And this picture on the right here, it says Bill Clinton enjoying his dinner with a reptilian exposed just now. There was no actual video to click. It was just a screenshot. This could be the fakest picture we've ever seen. I don't know. I just put it in here for fun. but I wouldn't be
It
surprised.
could be real. Who knows? Right.
It could be real. And I do think that these people, there's plenty of instances where we see them shapeshift and the slits in their eyes and a lot of
Mhm.
questionable things where they try to blow it off as some glitch in the camera, but that's not the case.
There's too many people though that have had eyewitness to this that they swear on their life that they saw someone shapeshift into a reptilian, or they at least saw the eyes turn into slits.
But
I
either way,
know someone personally. I have a friend here in Massachusetts personally. She has her own story. She says she saw this woman shapeshift into this giant reptilian right in front of her.
Yeah.
She tells the whole story.
I've heard that. I've heard a lot of people share very similar stories. But there we go. We have William Tompkins and the CSI show telling us that the presidents are reptilians. Coincidence or not? Okay. And then this was the infamous. We can't do this webinar without playing this clip of Trump talking about the storm.
You guys know what this represents?
Tell us, sir.
I don't know, maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Actually, I'm going to replay that. If you watch the camera panned over, he actually did an air cue, which is something that Trump did a lot. Watch it.
He did that a lot.
You catch the tail end of him. He goes, "You know what this represents?" And he made an air cue. Let's watch it again.
You guys know what this represents?
Tell us, sir.
I don't know, maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Could be the calm before the storm. We have the world's great military people in this room, I will tell you that. And we're going to have a great evening. Thank you all for coming.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
You'll find out.
What storm, Mr. President? You'll find out. But if you were to put that in slow motion, he 100% goes, "Do you guys know what this represents?" And he makes an air cue.
You know what this represents? Yeah.
Yeah.
He literally does it right when he says that.
Okay, so now that we got this background about Hillary and them being reptilians, who remembers the Bush Senior funeral when all the letters were passed out to certain individuals at the funeral? There's certain, I guess you could say, Democrats. If anyone was paying attention during this time, this is one of the most telling videos that these people were scared to death. This was when Donald Trump just became president, and these people were scared to death of what he was here to do, whether it was him or the Q operation or whatever was actually going on behind the scenes. You can't tell me that these people's reactions don't tell it all. And this video actually gives me chills because you can see them shaking in their boots. So what this is they all sit down at Bush Senior funeral and they open up their pamphlets and there's a letter inside of it. Nobody knows what the letter says. We can speculate, but you look at their facial reactions when they read the letter.
Yes. Look at their faces. Look at their reaction to it.
Okay,
that tells you the nature of what they're looking at.
And this is right after Trump became president. And Trump becomes president. Bush Senior, their head Lizzie, dies. Interestingly enough. Oh, the letter falls out. I would say Hillary has the best poker face of all of them. Watch the facial expressions. Watch him just drop his hand off his heart. Look at Bush's face.
Yeah, Bush had the worst poker face.
Right. That's Biden. That's Biden and Jill. Look at Joe Biden's face. They're pissed because they can't even react. They're in a public setting on live TV.
Right.
Now, there's speculation that it just was a note that said, "We have everything, signed Donald Trump." I've heard people say that, but we really don't know what it said.
We don't know. It could be.
Either way.
It's something they didn't like. That's all we know.
Right. And there's so many more things to pick apart in that whole video. Okay, so another thing when Donald Trump became president, there was a staggering number of CEO resignations, and people didn't understand why it was happening. And John D'Souza here explains. John D'Souza is a former FBI agent, and he explains what the significance is of a CEO resigning when they know that there's an indictment, like a sealed indictment on them potentially, and when somebody's going to be investigating into the company, the significance of resigning, because all these people, they knew once Trump was in, the game was over for them. They had to step down. They knew they were going to be investigated. And we'll let John D'Souza explain to us why that is.
It's almost like a legal trick that goes on. I've been an attorney for a long time, and I see this kind of thing, and also as an FBI agent, I've seen this kind of thing. When you have a CEO that is in charge of a company, if he gets indicted one day while he's still with the company, it's a world of difference if he gets indicted the moment one day after he steps out of the company. It's a world of difference because it gives the indictment will give access. If he's still in the company, the indictment will give access to all the company's records into that criminal investigation. And it'll give access to everything that's gone on in that company, you see? And so what happens is these companies find out, well, the boards of directors, they find out that this indictment is coming. And so they say to the CEO, you got to step out. You got to step out right now, because if you get indicted while you're still with us, then all of our books are going to be open, and we can't afford that because. And the books can still be opened through a separate, criminal investigation, but it just makes it a lot easier if the CEO is still there while he gets indicted. See, that's why you see all of these CEOs all step out at the same time and say, okay, I'm out. And then they can negotiate, the indictments and how that's going to go down. And there's companies are going to be subject through them to all the scrutiny that happens. In these
look at all the big name companies we've seen. Disney, MasterCard, T-Mobile, IBM, Harley Davidson. Right. There's a whole list of them.
Yeah, because the cabal and the deep state, they have compromised so many institutions into their criminality, into the things that they have done. I mean, can you imagine if the CEO of Disney, or as an example, gets indicted for something to do with trafficking, human trafficking, and then that would open, and he's still not resigned, he's still with the company, that then would open up the company Disney to what are their policies with trafficking, with human trafficking? What involvement do they have as a company with human trafficking all around the world? And what connections do they have to it? And that it would be unthinkable for them to open themselves up to that sort of thing.
I just read an article just from NBC News. It said between November 2018 and November 2019, over 1,300 CEOs stepped down. 1,300. And that was as of November 2019. So how many have we stepped down since then? So, man, that's from an old episode. Good old days.
Yeah, that was about four years ago.
Right. Man, and some of those old episodes are gems. Like when I re-listen to this whole episode, there's going to be a few more clips from John D'Souza, but he's right. Like, so he was talking about human trafficking and sex trafficking. Well, that's one of the things that Trump would say over and over. We're dismantling an ancient sex trafficking pedophilia ring. And that's what he would get scrutinized for. And when he would say something, the media, the press would never ask him a follow-up question. Well, a lot of these people within these corporations and these CEOs, they're all complicit in that. That's how the whole ring operates. When you put people in the heads of all the organizations, that's how you keep a lid on it. Now the organization can be as corrupt as they want, and there's nobody within the organization that can do anything about it. But these sealed indictments that we heard about through the Q operation and through other people, even other whistleblowers, and people being indicted, well, this would make a lot of sense why they're resigning. And people think that, oh, nothing happened, nothing happened. Well, a military tribunal means that that tribunal will happen behind closed doors so the public never has to know about it. That's exactly what a military tribunal is designed to do. So even if people were being arrested in droves, unfortunately, the public would never know that. We would never get to see that because these military tribunals are held behind doors.
Right. Especially with how corrupt the judicial system is. They've infiltrated that as well. So they're not going to arrest themselves, right? It doesn't make any sense. So the military has to do it themselves. They're going to do it behind closed doors. You're never going to even see it. You're just going to we're just seeing kind of the effects. We're the public only sees a very surface level of everything that's going on, and you have to decode yourself. You have to read between the lines, put the pieces together, do your own research to figure out, to even get close to figuring out to what's really going on. But even then, unless you're somehow on the inside, you're not going to know everything, obviously. But we have to speculate to a certain degree, but there is some hard facts and evidence, which we're going through in this webinar, that you can kind of see generally what's going on,
Right. So October 28th, 2017, the very first Q drop hits the internet. And the reason we prefaced this with everything we did is because the very first Q drop is talking about Hillary Clinton. The very first few Q drops talk about Hillary Clinton. And well, I'll read through those in a minute, but I wanted you guys to understand like kind of the story of what's going on here and why Q was even needed to be put in play to counter this World War III agenda, right? So the very first drop, an anonymous person, this wasn't even Q, an anonymous person said, Hillary Clinton will be arrested between 7:45 and 8:30 a.m. Eastern on Monday, the morning of October 30th, 2017. I even bet my friend $50 at the time that she was going to be arrested. That's how much I believed in this. But that was not from Q. That was from an anonymous poster.
Right.
This below it is from Q. HRC extradition already in motion, effective yesterday with several countries in case of cross-border run, passport approved to be flag effective 10:30 at 12:01 a.m. Expect massive riots organized in defiance and others fleeing the U.S. to occur, which did happen. So many people left the country right when Donald Trump got in office. It was hilarious. And we should have made a slide about that and did a dig on that. I forgot. It was like they were leaving in droves.
Yeah, I remember that now. I totally forgot, like you said. Yeah, you're right. They were leaving in droves right when he got elected. Why is that?
USMs will conduct the operation while NG activated. Proof check, locate a NG member and ask if activated for duty 10:30 across most major cities. And then the next drop was Mockingbird, HRC detained, not arrested yet. Where is Huma? Follow Huma. This has nothing to do with Russia yet. Why does POTUS surround himself with generals? What is military intelligence? Why go around the three-letter agencies? What Supreme Court case allows for the use of MI versus congressional assembled and approved agencies? Who has the ultimate authority over our branches of military without approval conditions unless 90 plus in wartime conditions? What is the military code? Where is AW being held? Why? POTUS will not go on TV to address the nation. POTUS must isolate himself to prevent negative optics. POTUS knew removing criminal rogue elements as a first step was essential to free and pass legislation. Who has access to everything classified? Do you believe HRC, Soros, Obama, etc. have more power than Trump? Fantasy. Whoever controls the office of presidency controls this great land. They never believed for a moment they, Democrats and Republicans, would lose control. Telling you this is outside of the left and right off the bat. The very first drops telling you this is somebody outside of politics, yet they've turned it into a right-wing conspiracy. They never believed for a moment that they, Democrats and Republicans, would lose control. This is not a Republican versus Democrat battle. Why did Soros donate all of his money recently? Why would he place all his funds in an RC, Mockingbird, which we know Operation Mockingbird is? Mockingbird 10/30/17. God bless fellow patriots. And it just goes on to talk about Hillary Clinton a little bit and some other corrupt stuff, and we could go through it all, but we'd be here forever if we decoded all these drops.
Yeah. If you don't know, real quick, if you don't know what Operation Mockingbird is, it's in a nutshell, it's the CIA. The CIA controls our mainstream media. That is a provable fact. You can prove it. It's a fact. And what is the CIA? Well, the deep state controls the CIA, right? So the deep state controls the mainstream media. That therefore the mainstream media is not giving you the news. It's giving you the deep state's propaganda that they want you to believe. It's all scripted. That's why they all say the same things. They have their actors on screen just reading a script, telling you what they're paid to say. Propaganda. That's all the mainstream media is. So what do you think is going to happen when something like something like the White Hats, Trump working all together, taking them out? What do you think they're going to, the reaction that they did is exactly what you would expect. Right.
So this last one says POTUS has everything. If you don't know what POTUS is, President of the United States. I didn't know what it was the first time I heard it. POTUS has everything. Not everyone is corrupt. Fewer than you think. Follow Huma. Operation Mockingbird. Priority to clean out the bad actors to unite people behind the American First agenda. Many in our government worship Satan. That's important to know. Not about Republicans versus Democrats at this stage. Where is HRC, Hillary Clinton? Why is the NG called up across 12 cities? Trust in your president. God bless patriots. So you might be saying Hillary was never arrested. Nothing happened to her. This is all bullshit. Well, will we know if she was arrested? We understand how they use clones. If you've seen our clone webinar, if these are reptilians, they have body doubles. Tell me that's the same person. Tell me we're looking at the same person in these two pictures. There have been so many rumors of multiple different versions of Hillary Clinton. This looks like a very bad clone or a robot or whatever the hell it is.
Well, to me, that's just a different person.
Right.
That's just the body double.
So who's to say she wasn't arrested a long time ago and we've been seeing a body double the whole time, which is highly likely. Like James Casbolt said, when they took out that member of the royal family and they killed him, they assassinated him, and the guy was on the mainstream media news the following Monday, they already replaced him that fast. This is how they operate. If somebody kills a top level celebrity, politician, if they're killed and they're still needed to put on their black magic show, their spell, then they will continue to live in the public eye. And the show, the Pentaveret on Netflix, I think, with Michael Myers, it shows how the celebrities and the politicians fake their death, or they fake their death in the public eye, but they go on to live behind the scenes, or they die in the public eye and they're replaced and nobody knows that they died. That's a great show with disclosure. So we have to consider that. This is just comparison. God, that's scary. Yeah. And then, sorry for this slide, guys. It's very dark, but this is something, if you don't know what the frazzle drip video is, this is video of Hillary Clinton that was leaked that I saw years ago. It's since scrubbed from the internet, with one of the most horrific things you will ever see. And I'm going to read to you what it is, just so you know why they had to take this person out and who these people were. This is the purported file name of a snuff film found on the laptop of Anthony Weiner in a folder named Life Insurance. It was said to make even the most hardened New York City police veterans cry. It's said to show Weiner's wife, Huma Abedin, and Hillary Clinton performing satanic ritual abuse on a young girl, surgically removing her face and wearing it as a mask to flood the victim's bloodstream with adrenaline. Blood drank in this state is an elite's drug of choice called adrenochrome. People say that this video didn't exist, but I remember it leaked, and I remember seeing it, and I remember not being able to finish watching it. And if you look, go ahead.
Please do not watch. I mean, it's that bad. Like, I haven't even watched it, but I don't want to watch it.
And then if it wasn't real, why in the hell would why would this be what comes up when you search the Frazzle Drip video? One of the top things. Deep fake video shows Hillary Clinton torturing young girl. Here's the truth. They're already telling you that the video exists, but they're telling you it's a deep fake. So they're telling you without telling you. But that's why, if you watch our clone webinar, they even created deepfake technology so they could blame it. They could blame it on these videos. If a video is released like this, they can say, "Oh, it's deepfake technology." They were getting ahead of the game by
Well,
releasing deepfake technology.
I'm sure the technology was around for a while, but then they clearly, you could see after Trump got elected is right when they went on the campaign of blasting that out in articles left and right of deepfake, 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 get it in everyone's consciousness so that then they get ahead of it, right? So that because they knew real films are probably real videos are going to start coming out. And then they have an excuse. Oh, it's just a deep fake, nothing to see here. They're always doing that. They're always trying to get ahead. They know what's coming a lot of times, so they try to do this propaganda campaign to get ahead of it, so they can front load you with what to think about the thing when it comes out later. Right? They're doing that with ETs right now, and UFOs and ETs. Like they're trying to front load you with how to react, what to think about it, right? Before things happen.
And this tweet, the people aren't ready yet. Horrific Hillary Clinton snuff film circulating on dark web. This was just shared like a couple weeks ago, the January 10th, 2024. This was recirculating again this year. It's not going to go away. And eventually people are going to see it. And it's just disgusting.
Well, it just shows you that these aren't humans, dark entities that are working through humans. They're not, but it's not humans that are doing this stuff, guys.
Right. If you think all that's bullshit, well, this movie from 1975 or 76 actually came out, Future World, where you can't tell the mortals from the machines even when you look in the mirror. So it's a movie. I'll read you the synopsis of the film here. The reporters return to their apartment where Duffy is waiting for them. He explains that by cloning world leaders, they can ensure that nothing harms Delos' interest. Delos was this big corporation in the movie. That without proper guidance, humans will eventually destroy the planet. Cloning the reporters would ensure favorable coverage, letting people forget about the Westworld tragedy, meaning cloning these people to cover their tracks. Browning attacks Duffy, but is easily overpowered by Duffy's unnatural strength, blah, 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 blah. So you find out that they're creating these like android type robot clones in the movie, and they discover this facility. These news reporters discover this facility, but while they're in the facility, they get abducted in the middle of the night and cloned themselves. But the even deeper secret, sorry, spoiler alert, the even deeper secret in the movie is that beyond the robots, they discover a part of the facility where they're making actual, real, organic clones that you would not know the difference between the original person and the clone. And they were doing this to world leaders and news anchors. And so that what this company would do in the movie was they would basically invite all the world leaders and news anchors and all the people that they wanted to come see their company. They would invite them to give them a tour. While they were there, they would abduct them in the middle of the night and make a clone of them, but they would keep the original body at the facility and they would send the clone back home. And the clone would go out and they were able to program the clone and make it do whatever they wanted. This movie had so much disclosure in it. Okay. And then there were plenty of cue drops that said they never thought she would lose. Careless. Who are the bad actors? Who funds the majority of U.S. senior politicians? Fantasyland. Was the former president of the United States groomed to be command-in-chief? Is this possible? Is the U.S. political election system corrupt? Who owns the poll machines? Soros? Why is this relevant? They never thought she would lose. They never thought she would lose. Fantasyland. The complete picture would put 99% of the Americans, the world, in the hospital. Think about that, what that means. The complete picture would put 99% of the world in the hospital, meaning that if videos like the Frazzle Drip Hillary Clinton video got released, I mean, that's why they say most people couldn't handle the truth behind what's going on this planet.
You got to be very strong to be able to handle how dark and just evil so much that has been going. And here's the thing, this stuff's been going on for thousands of years.
Right.
So it does appear on the surface that things are getting worse. Well, they're not. They're coming to the surface for the first time in a long time, if ever.
Right. So then
So it seems like things are getting worse. No, the truth is becoming uncovered now. We're finding out how evil the system we've been living in it has been in for a long time. Hillary was a crucial part of that. And when she lost, they freaked out because Donald Trump, this outsider, was like a huge wrench in their spokes, so to
They
speak.
didn't have a reptilian in play.
They didn't have one of their, yeah, and
Yeah.
he's not only that, but he's working with their with what you call it, whatever you want to call them, the White Hats, the Alliance, blah blah blah. And in my opinion, there's benevolent ETs working with them to help free humanity, to help wake up humanity, so we can then free ourselves. Because if enough of us wake up, it's game over.
And then
Ever
there
since.
was, ironically, 17 posts containing "They never thought she would lose." They never thought she would lose. Now they all lose. Was S.C. Mueller brought on to provide cover for a legal 44 spy op for Wall, POTUS, and non-attack political box? A lot of this stuff is military comms, and we'll get into that later. Seek and destroy, lose incriminating evidence? Question mark. They never thought she was going to lose. Sloppy in kill brackets. Nothing digital is ever really lost. So there's a lot of stories where these laptops are burned or destroyed, or they're like burning down their own buildings, like the Oklahoma bombing and the Clintons in the 90s. Like they're destroying their own evidence, but they said nothing digital is ever really lost.
Especially with, remember, so the NSA, for example, remember when Snowden blew the whistle back in 2013, that they've been dragnetting the entire world.
Right.
Meaning everything you've ever posted on the internet, every phone call, every email, everything on any device that has ever been done, all communication.
And that was back then.
Collected. And that was back then. And just think how long that's been going on. The whistle was just blown in 2013 on that.
Right.
Well, that's supposedly the White Hats at some point gained control of the NSA, if they haven't been the whole time. And that's why they were doing that. So they have, when Q says we have it all, well, that's how they have it all. That's one of the ways, at least,
Right.
they have it all.
So why do we believe Q? Well, how do we know this is even legitimate? Well, thank God this website still exists, qproofs.com, a collection of Q proofs and Q references provided by anonymous patriots. Q had foreknowledge of events that led to their proving legitimacy to the public. It was proved over and over. A Q proof demonstrates a remarkably coordinated effort between Q and President Trump, military, and events. How many coincidences before it becomes mathematically impossible? It was over before it began. Over 100 coincidences. What are the odds? So I was going to click on this website and scroll through it, but for the sake of time, I'm not. If you click on this website, it has amazing Q proofs, but we're going to go through some of the big ones just so you can understand what a Q proof is and how this stuff is just actually mathematically impossible. Okay, so nothing is random. Everything has meaning. That's a Q drop from Monday, November 6th, 2017. And below, so Q always signed the drops with the letter Q, but below this one was plus, plus, plus. Only 7 minutes later, Donald Trump tweeted this message. Note the use of the plus, plus, plus. My visit to Japan and his friendship with Prime Minister Abe will yield many benefits for our great country. Massive military and energy orders happening, plus, plus, plus. 7 minutes after Q posted plus, plus, plus. Everybody's like, oh my God, Trump's connected. That was one example. So this is a little more complex, but this is just how these Q proofs worked. So on January 13th, Q asked if we trusted the chain of command. Today, the Department of Defense tweeted about National Geographic's airing of the chain of command. So basically on the 13th, Q asked if we trusted the chain of command. On the 15th, the Department of Defense tweeted about the National Geographic's airing of the chain of command. And during the show, during the airing of that show, there just happened to be a coffee mug in the show with the letter Q. So they're telling you the Department of Defense is involved, the chain of command.
And by the way, shows do not do stuff like that by accident. They are very meticulous about what appears on screen, what makes the cut and edits, things like that. Like,
right.
If a mug has something on it, they're gonna know. They're gonna be like, okay, we want this.
Right. But it's just like over and over and over examples like this. So, okay, this is my favorite. Every president, everyone who's become president, when they go visit these sports teams, whenever they win the cup or the Super Bowl, the World Series, whatever it is, they go and they have a jersey with the number of their presidency. So Clinton, President 42, number 42, Bush 43, Obama 44. Why did the jerseys he got have the number 17 on them? If
Should be
he is
45. It should be 45,
It
right?
should be 45, but
Yeah, 17.
they're showing you the connection with Q. How many coincidences before it's mathematically impossible? And there's more examples of these jerseys too, but this is just two of them. I mean, how obvious can it be? This is so Q posts a blurry image of Trump. 1 minute later, Trump tweets a video of meeting in the Oval Office. At the 17-second mark of the video, we see the setup for Q's pick. So at the 17-second mark of the video, if you zoom in, you see exactly what Q posted 1 minute earlier, showing you like there's such a connection between. And the video stopped at 17 seconds at 17:17 p.m. and tweeted 1 minute after the Q post. And then this one, so everybody, Q would sign their post with Q, right? Well, then there was some of them right here. If you look at the top left, it was signed Q plus. People started believing that when it was signed Q plus, it was actually President Trump making the drop. And this was, they never thought she would lose. Now they all lose Q plus. Then there's this picture in front of the U.S. Naval Hospital ship, the Comfort. Remember the Comfort and the Mercy during the COVID, whenever they went to each coast and they were supposed to be hospital ships, even though people believed that they were hospital ships for them rescuing the children from the underground tunnels. And there's a whole conspiracy theory there. But this is Trump giving a speech in front of the Comfort with the plus sign. Literally, if Trump is Q, it's saying Q plus. Like, it's hilarious. They just
Again, the placement, very
yeah.
intentional.
Why would they frame it like that?
Right. The plus could have been right behind him, out of view. It could have been off camera, but they very intentionally placed it right next to him.
And then there's a number. I mean, we could do hundreds of slides of articles that have Trump and 17 in the headlines, in the same headline, Trump and 17 together. And then, if you needed more proof, Q literally dropped a drop of Trump's tweet that says, "And the best is yet to come." So they literally dropped one of Trump's tweets, and that's where that comes from. And the best is yet to come. It doesn't show up in any other Q drop. It's something that Donald Trump tweeted. And then this is actually a video. Notice the yellow. They try and say that the yellow is related to the so in a color chart, somehow yellow is related to the letter Q, but I also think it's hinting at yellow cube technology.
I want to know really who are the 17%? Who are they? Who the hell are the 17%? Anybody in here from the 17%? Don't raise your hand. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. So I think I might have been in Washington 17 times. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17.
So I'm just gonna stop that because it's just a bunch. It's like it's so long. It's amazing how many times he said it.
He very intentionally says 17 when he could have said any number. He says 17 over and over and over again.
So what also, which we could have posted a video of, which is really fascinating, is when Trump goes to his rallies and he's like welcoming the crowd, he claps. And I've seen this. He claps 17 times, stops, waves at the crowd. He claps. You can count 17 times, waves at the crowd, and he does it again 17 times. He does that all the time. He specifically claps 17 times. So here's Q helping us see, asking questions. Aaron, do you want to read through this drop?
Sure. Shall we play a game? Nothing can stop what is coming. Who stepped down today? Forced. More coming? Why is this relevant? How do you show the public the truth? How do you safeguard U.S. elections post-POTUS? How do you remove foreign interference and corruption and install U.S.-owned voter ID laws and other safeguards? It had to be this way. Sometimes you must walk through the darkness before you see the light. Q.
This is not a drill, booms en route. Only the beginning, Padawan. They can no longer hide in the shadows. Big tech, big media, deep party, being exposed for all to see. So what Q would do a lot is ask. It would just be a list of questions, and it would send people down the rabbit hole. And let me tell you, researching for this webinar, it is amazing what searching and researching these Q drops does and how it sends you down rabbit holes that you can't even get out of. Like there is so much here. Like this is the true definition of going down the rabbit hole. It's unbelievable what types of information these drops lead to when you really follow it. So what else were they telling us about? Well, they were telling us about Pizzagate, which just happened a year prior to Trump becoming president, which they tried to say was a big conspiracy theory. This is what the mainstream media says. Pizzagate is a conspiracy theory that went viral during the 2016 presidential election cycle, falsely claiming that the New York City Police Department had discovered a pedophilia ring linked to members of the Democratic Party while searching through Anthony Weiner's emails. It had been extensively discredited by a wide range of organizations, including the Washington, D.C. police. Well, they thought they had it all in their wraps and they thought they put that fire out. And then here comes Trump and Q, literally bringing it all back to the surface. And they have a link that takes you to information about Pizzagate. They do not want you asking questions. They do not want you thinking for yourself. They do not want you united. They want you to live in fear and divided. They want you asleep. They want you blind. The message must bypass the mainstream media. It is the only way. People united hold the power. Think election 2016. Power shall be returned to the people. So they're telling you about, they're basically exposing their game and their plan, but they're also bringing information to the surface. People click that link, it takes you down the Pizzagate rabbit hole. And they're bringing it right back to the public's awareness after they tried to put the fire out.
Right.
They're telling
Shoot themselves in the foot.
Right. This tweet leads to adrenochrome and child trafficking and legal child marriage in Saudi Arabia. And there's 3 different links here that take you to some very disturbing information about what is being done that links to child trafficking, immigrant abuse, child sex slavery, child marriage. And it says HRC, Hillary Rodham Clinton, equals Alice. SA, special access, equals Wonderland. Who are the white rabbits? Reread drops, read special access, have faith, forgotten country, Q. Well, so in this drop, who are the white rabbits? Well, when they ask who are the white rabbits, and you click these links, it takes you to the children. So that would lead you to believe that the children are the white rabbits, which then leads you to information about adrenochrome, which shows you that the chemical formula for adrenochrome is in the shape of a white rabbit. So that leads you down the whole adrenochrome rabbit hole. They're bringing this information to the public's awareness.
And it also goes to Alice in Wonderland, Follow the White Rabbit.
Right.
Yeah, it kind of ties in with that as well.
And,
which is where the term looking glass comes from, Alice in Wonderland, through the looking glass.
And we'll get into that too.
Yeah. Oh, really quick. Another thing with the Melania wearing yellow and Trump wearing the yellow tie. So yellow is Q, as we said. Yellow is yellow cube or yellow book. Also, gold will destroy the Fed is what Q would say, right?
Yeah.
And it could be representing gold as well. And that's what somebody said in the chat. So could be multiple things.
Right.
Yeah.
This I just put because I love that this came to the surface. So Q said, Anons, impressive, most impressive. Why would in-game chat be disabled during false flag events? Just like you, they go silent during ops. So what this drop did was show that the deep state was using the Star Wars Commander game for comms. They were using it for comms, but then during their false flag events, the comms would go silent on the game. And the White Hats or the Alliance had people in the chat room as well monitoring this. And they made this tweet to show the deep state, like, hey, we got you. We're in your chat room. And their chat room was called Palpatine's Revenge. And it's literally them basically planning out a false flag in the comms of the Star Wars Commander video game. And if you guys have seen the show Jack Ryan, which is this screenshot from the bottom right here, they use video games in that show. It's all about CIA, and it's about them using video games for their comms. The
Again,
terrorists,
they're showing you the truth in a show, which they
right?
do all the time.
The terror they in the show they found out that the terrorists were using this whatever video game this was for comms, and that's how they were communicating outside of being hacked. So they were using the game Star Wars Commander as comms, and they literally call it Palpatine's Revenge. Like, what a perfect name for a deep state chat room.
Right. Very apropos.
Right. So then there's something called a Q clock.
QAnon is a form of interactive role playing where followers try to solve riddles presented by Q's posts by connecting them to Trump speeches and tweets. Some followers use a Q clock consisting of a wheel of concentric dials to decode clues based on the timing of Q's posts and Trump's tweets. The term Q clock is also used in the trailer for the 1996 Ridley Scott film White Squall.
Which is really interesting what a white squall is, and we'll get into that in a second, and why they Q linked a couple movies over the years, but
and that's where the term "where we go," that's where we go when we go all comes from. That's where multiple things that Q says comes from the movie White Squall.
We'll play that trailer too, because there's a lot to see in that. The Q clock is a tool used by non-followers to prove that Q has predicted future events. The clock consists of a standard clock surrounded by a line spiraling outwards, which features a series of dated points. Each point forms a second on the clock, and a shaded date indicates that Q posted a drop on that date. To read the clock, non-followers draw a line from today's date on the spiral to the center of the clock, checking for any drops on the shaded dates that the line intersects and decoding their meaning. The clock can also be mirrored and blah, blah, blah. It just shows how it's used to predict future events. It's very complex, actually. So White Squall shows up one time in a Q drop. I won't read the whole thing. Our rights to secure and protect at all costs then become justified. We stand at the ready, red wave, white squall, in God we trust. Now, in the book Sands of Time 3, the Isomer Protocol, they tell you what a white squall is. So meteorologists act like they don't know what a white squall is. And this is proof. This is what it says online. A white squall is a sudden and violent windstorm at sea, which is not accompanied by the black clouds generally characteristic of a squall. It manifests as a sudden increase in wind velocity in tropical and subtropical waters, and it may be a microburst. The name refers to the white-capped waves and broken water. Its meager warning to any unlucky seamen caught in its path. A white squall was allegedly behind the sinking of the Brigantine Albatross on May 2nd, 1961, which is what the movie The White Squall was made after, the true story. But they say it's a sudden and violent windstorm at sea, which is not accompanied by the black clouds generally characteristic of a white squall. It manifests suddenly. Well, in the Sands of Time, the white squall comes, they happen whenever one of these vipers, they call them a black triangle, a TR-3B, which is a real craft, there's even patents and everything. When it comes back into our atmosphere, cloaked from the Navy, it's one of the Navy Space Fleet UFOs, craft. It's reverse engineered. When it re-enters our atmosphere, it's so hot they have to re-enter over the ocean, but when they re-enter, they're cloaked, so it's invisible. But they're coming in so hot at such an incredible speed, it stirs up the water and it literally creates what they call a white squall. And they say it's a sudden and violent windstorm at sea, which is not accompanied by the black clouds generally characteristic of a squall. That's because it's literally being generated by one of our own craft.
By craft. But to the naked eye, it just comes out of nowhere because you don't see the craft because it's cloaked. Right. So they just call it a phenomenon. Oh, it's a white squall phenomenon, but it's literally being generated by a craft.
There's no way that the Q operation doesn't know where the white squall actually comes from. Right. There's no way.
There's no way they don't know.
Right. Red wave, white squall. So they know the damage that a white squall will do to a ship or the land. And what's interesting is it says white squalls are rare at sea, but common on the Great Lakes of North America. Why would a white squall be common on the Great Lakes of North America? Oh, it's because one of the largest naval stations in the Midwest is located on the Great Lakes of America. And And this, according to many whistleblowers, is where they do, even Jim Goodall talks about where they do testing of their reverse engineered UFOs. So if they're testing these craft over the Great Lakes, obviously they're going to be creating white squalls. So a white squall over the Great Lakes is not a microburst in the meteorology terms. It's literally them testing a cloaked black triangle viper. Okay, so this is the trailer for the movie White Squall. And there's so many things in this movie. Q mentioned White Squall, but there's so many things in this movie to take note of. You can dissect just the trailer alone.
They came from different places.
And this Ocean Academy isn't recognized as accredited.
It'll be a good thing, Dad.
They sailed for different reasons.
I don't want to be what I was when I left.
There you go.
Anonymous.
But there was only one way.
We'll do it together.
I can't.
Climb!
To survive on his ship.
I will challenge them, and they will come together.
Become a team.
Where we go one, we go all.
Because where he was taking them...
What are they doing?
Claiming their place in the world.
...could not be measured in miles. They thought they had survived the greatest challenge of their lives.
We had come through every kind of seas imaginable.
Except a white squall.
But it was only...
White squalls are a phenomenon of the imagination.
The calm.
What happened to my ship was not imagined.
Before the storm. A film about loyalty.
Where we go one,
we go all.
Discovery.
But we're a crew. That's what this whole thing is about.
And courage.
Don't you walk out of this, Skipper, you don't! Captain, they're only boys. We listened to you, we believed you!
they're much more than that, sir.
And we are still here!
Jeff Bridges in a Ridley Scott film. White Squall. Based on a true story.
So much to dissect in that. But what's also interesting is the prominent ship's wheel. The Naval Command Station is a ship's wheel in the Great Lakes. The Naval Space Command patch, the logo, is a ship's wheel. Even though it's Naval Space Command, the Solar Warden patch that's supposed to be a conspiracy theory that's not, is also a ship's wheel. So the Q leads you, says White Squall, leads you to the trailer that shows the ship wheel. The ship wheel is the Naval Space Command operation, tied a Naval Space Command into the White Squall being created by a Naval Space Fleet craft. It's all there. You just have to break it down.
Right.
And then here's a Q post of a clock just for the hell of it. Stop track, register all data pools to location, standby. But I found an actual Q clock on the internet, something that's very real. It's a cavity enhanced quantum optical clocks. The atomic quantum clock is a milestone of the European quantum technologies timeline. Q clocks seek to establish a new frontier in the quantum measurement of time by joining state-of-the-art optical lattice clocks and the quantized electromagnetic field provided by an optical cavity. The goal of the project is to apply advanced quantum techniques to state-of-the-art optical lattice clocks, demonstrating enhanced sensitivity while preserving long coherence times at the highest accuracy. And it goes on and on to be very confusing and very technological. But a Q clock is something very real, talking about quantum technology and timelines.
A lot of people speculated from early on that, like, what does Q stand for? Well, there's Q clearance. Q clearance is a military intelligence
which
clearance.
We'll get into that too. We have
We'll
slides
get into that
on
later.
that.
But Q could stand for quantum as well. Maybe that's where the Q and the Q clearance, maybe that's what it stands for anyway, right?
Right.
Quantum. Because we're thinking quantum time travel here, like outside of time, a lot of this is very quantum. So there you go.
And this is one of the a very important Q drop. If you want to read this one, Aaron.
How can an entity known only as Q, faceless, nameless, fameless, etc., begin to ask questions on 4chan, now 8chan, and build something of this magnitude? How can this same Q entity garner such a massive amount of worldwide mainstream media, fake news, attention, attacks? How is it possible this Q entity can forecast future events or know when the POTUS is about to tweet? How is it possible future proofs past? Information provided. How is it possible this Q entity, an entity who began by merely asking questions on 4chan and 8chan, was able to fill in the blank? Think logically. People are craving truth. People are craving transparency. People are craving equal justice under the law. People are craving good. People are craving right. People are craving true freedom. People are craving safety and security. People are craving fill in the blank. Proofs negate falsehood, conspiracy, attacks. Those who attack have an agenda or remain plugged into the biggest disinformation campaign to be ever witnessed. So
I
there you
just
go.
like, how is it possible this Q entity can forecast future events or know when the POTUS is about to tweet? How is it possible future proofs past? Well, we're going to get into that because this is very much of a timeline technology, a time travel technology operation. But just a synopsis of what the Q operation is, it seems to be an intelligence dissemination program, act as a way showing system for the public while not violating national security, hence the inquiries, code and vagueness, counterintelligence versus the deep state, send commands to operators in the field, military comms, that's important, send commands to operators in the field. John D'Souza, when he was reading through some of the drops, he said these are military comms. He knew right off the bat. He goes, some of this stuff, half of this stuff isn't even meant for the public. They won't know what it means. These are direct commands to operators in the field. These are military comms.
And that's not just John saying that. I remember multiple people back then saying that were either in the military or used to be in the military, that they recognized it right away. They're like, this is military comms right here. They recognized it right away.
Right.
A lot of it, is military comms, military intelligence, comms.
And they bypass the fake news. Disinformation is necessary, which is something Q said a lot. We're going to get into that. Optics are key, which is also something we're going to get into. This is a quote from Jordan Sather, who honestly, like, despite our differences nowadays, he was a prominent figure in the Q movement. Like, he was doing his due diligence on breaking down this operation and disseminating that information. And he was one of the people that a lot of people would go to back then. And he said, Q is showing us how to think again, asking the questions, develop our own skills. It's not just about Q, it's teaching people to think for themselves. The deep state does not want an aware, awake population. So true. And this is John D'Souza talking about what Q is as well.
But anyone that studies the Q drops, whether they're on AQN or whether they study them with all the great interpreters that are on YouTube and other places as well. Anybody who studies these drops knows that we know the future. We know what's going to happen before it happens. And only we know that. And why is that? Because we know that Q is nothing more than a military intelligence communication group. That's all they are. And they're just putting out military intel out there because we are in a war. In this nation and all across the globe. We're in a war. And it's the forces of darkness, the cabal, that is pursuing to reestablish its power over all the nations, especially the United States, of course, and the alliance of the light that is being spearheaded by President Donald Trump. There's no other way to say it because he is the spear tip in this allied group that is fighting against these dark cabal forces, the deep state, and all their little subsidiaries, all of their minions that are trying to destroy us. And this is the most incredibly dangerous part of this. The evil queen who was trying to come into her throne over the United States, she had been given orders from the cabal, from her masters, that her first agenda when she came into office, when Hillary, I don't know what I said, when she came into office, her first agenda was to get the United States into a nuclear war against Russia. That was her number one agenda. And if you go back and listen to some of her speeches, you'll see that what I'm saying is true.
And then the military involvement became very apparent. And this is a U.S. Army tweet. Everybody flipped out. They said, oh my God, it's a Q, but it's actually not a Q. If you look at the sign behind them, it's actually just the logo for the headquarters of their theater sustainment command. They were just making the logo, but it could be looked at as a Q. Nothing's coincidence, right?
It kind of looks like a clock also.
Yeah.
If that was intentional or not.
But it's very clearly they're imitating the logo, in my opinion.
Right, right.
But a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, it's a Q."
So that's just to point out that
Right.
just because people say something, you always want to look into it yourself and dissect it yourself.
And a lot of times, a lot of these pictures actually had the sign cropped out, so it's very deceiving. You couldn't immediately compare it. Okay, disinformation exists and is necessary. Why is it relevant? Reread, complete Chrome graphic, confirmed good, paint a picture. Disinformation exists and is necessary. 10 days, darn kiss. So this is another thing. Everybody was waiting for 10 days of darkness. This does not say 10 days of darkness. It says 10 days, darn kiss. Whatever that means, however that can be interpreted, it does not say darkness. Was it a typo? Not likely. Everything was intentional, but we don't have to read all this, but this is just Q telling you who has all the information. No such agency has all the information. The hunter becomes the hunted. Operations underway. Operators active. Disinformation is real. Disinformation is necessary. Silent war. Some gets out. The Great Awakening, Iron Eagle, Godfather, Humphrey Red October. Now do you understand why mirrors and disinformation is necessary? Logical thinking. So we're going to get into disinformation and how far this actually goes. Yeah, this is in Santa time too. This is explaining how their disinformation program works, just to give you an idea of how detailed and complex it is.
Didn't we have some guys working for us a few years back that were going around frightening folks and that were talking too much? The registry he offered. What do you call them now? We call it MIB now, which is Men in Black. After the stuff in Gary Baker's book a few years back, Men in Black. What do you want with them? I want to increase their usage, but in a different direction. I want to use them to compromise some folks. Give them the power to provide some heavy disinformation to a couple of these researchers. I'm sending you a list right now of the facts. Leak them some high-level stuff. Make it come from high-ranking military types involved in special ops and advanced R&D areas. Rock-solid backgrounds, provable if anyone looks really hard. Make it plausible that we've reverse engineered alien spacecraft and are testing them. Include the cattle mutilation stuff as well. Blame it on a secret project at White Sands or Nellis. Have them start some crazy rumors about HARP as well. Make them believe we're going to use it to heat up the atmosphere, to alter weather patterns over China, or something to cause floods, storms, anything like that. Got it. When do we start on this? Yesterday would be fine. Disinformation, then what? Discredit their disclosures? Exactly. Anybody on that list that you think we could buy off or get to work for us inside their community? I had a couple of hunches, but I wanted to hear his comments. Also, you remember MK Ultra, the mind control stuff? Sure, about 10 years ago, we gave up on a lot of that when funding dried up. Have a collection of bright guys get together and rewrite the manuals. Bring it up to date with the latest university research, then leak it as though it's really going on right now. Make people believe their encounters with the visitors are really nothing more than the government screwing with their heads with some kind of new ray gun or something. Get someone in the Air Force to write up some bogus report that explains away that Roswell crap, will you? The dumber the better. I have been seeing more and more books come out about the crash at Roswell, and some writers were getting really close to the truth. So the MIBs are back in business. Good. That should be fun.
So, and it goes on to say they actually started putting disinformation in their own vaults at Area 51 because they had literally time travelers. So with this time travel technology, they're able to not just time travel, they can literally put in a specific coordination and basically beam into a room like on Star Trek. And they were doing this into the vault at Area 51. And then they realized this because they had like pressure sensors on the floor in the vault. And they would see like a 6-ounce difference in the pressure sensors occasionally, like once a week at the same time every week. They realized that somebody was literally phasing into the vault, going through the vault and bringing the information back to Germany or Russia or wherever it was.
They weren't fully phasing in. They were just phasing in enough to be able to physically interact with the environment, which is why it was only 6 ounces.
Right.
That way.
And so anyway, when they realized this, they started putting disinformation in their own files, fake projects that never existed. They were just bullshitting information and making them think that we were working on all kinds of crazy stuff, putting disinformation in their own vault. So if somebody broke in, they wouldn't know what was real and what wasn't. That's how extreme this disinformation goes. That's why it's necessary.
Right. And this, so the thing about HARP, you might be saying, well, HARP is messing with the weather. What are they talking about? Well, yeah, but that wasn't the original purpose of it. That was kind of a byproduct that they found out, oh, it's also heating up the atmosphere and messing with the weather. And we can also use it for that, but that wasn't the original intention of it. So of course they've used it for that as well, but they have other ways of messing with the weather, not just HARP.
The original intention was because through the early time travel experiments, they were ripping holes in the universe, quite literally, and opening portals from other dimensions. And that's when we had all the uptick in these craft. They didn't know how to close them, and all these craft were coming in from other dimensions. So they built HARP to put a frequency net basically around the planet to seal up all the holes and keep people from entering our airspace. And they realized that the side effect was weather changes, and people think it was built specifically for the weather when it was built up to keep craft in or out from our airspace.
And I like how it said MK Ultra being used to discredit real ET contact or
right,
or real experiences, because we see in recent years, especially, we've been seeing a lot of that narrative being propagated that you know, secret space program whistleblowers, ET experiencers, go down the list. Oh no, it's all just MK Ultra mind control. It's all just implanted memories. You know, there's people in the community that are buying into this that for whatever reason don't want to believe any of it's real. So it's a lot easier to just believe it's all fake memories being implanted. It's all MK Ultra. Not saying obviously MK Ultra is real. Obviously that's going on to some degree as well, but that doesn't explain away everything. It just doesn't. Like that's not the case. But of course they would want you to believe that. That fits in, you know, perfectly. Oh, you don't have to do anything. It's all just fake implanted memories, right? Nothing to see here, move along. Classic.
So reversal. So you can say that Q was a psyop, and they understand the co-creative process of the human very well. And just like the Cabal uses our minds to co-create dystopia, Q is using our minds to co-create the awakening. Here is the co-creative process. 1, identify a wish or need, then form and reform the intention, share knowledge of current ability and situation, identify opportunity and partial possibilities, co-created practical possibility, maintained when needed. That's the co-creative process. So that is exactly what Q was doing with the drops. And this is Justin Deschamps explaining exactly why this is true.
So there's also the Q Alliance, the Q team, you might say. Now, I'm not a huge Q researcher, so I can't sit here and quote like Q posts and what, you know, exactly what they mean and things like this, because there's a massive body of information.
Yeah.
But I do look at it from a top-down socio-political perspective. And one of the things that I think is inarguable from a claim perspective is that Q is unquestionably activating people's consciousness. He's putting out information. He's doing so in a way that it's called the Socratic method. So he asks a lot of questions because he doesn't want to give you the answer. He wants you to find the answer. And the mere fact that he uses that method, I would argue, proves that the people behind Q, they really understand how the Cabal control mechanism works, and they're actively working to undermine it at a literal psychological, personal level. The beautiful thing about Q from that level, something that I've observed, is that it's actually making people better truth seekers. They can think better. They're getting more critical thinking. And initially, it's a longer plan or agenda because, you know, it's easier to just tell people what to believe, and they're going to probably believe it real quick. But as far as being useful, it's not really all that useful. It doesn't necessarily rally the troops. On the other hand, if you can start to get people to think and develop their own personal sovereignty, which is one of the things that Q is doing, well, it takes a little longer because people have their own process. Now we have these, you know, there's people who came out against Q and said a whole bunch of, in my opinion, fallacious things that don't hold water. And then there's the actual analysts, and then there's the actual material. And if you put all the cards on the table and you look at the people who've kind of followed it along, there's a growing body of people who really are slowly coming together at a like boots on the ground level. So I would say this alliance is like a top-down alliance that's working, instead of trying to work its way to kind of just work at the top, it's actually working at the top, and then it's working up underneath at the same time.
Exactly.
So there's this like top-down kind of thing that's slowly happening. And we have legions of people. I think the last estimate I saw, which Q posted himself, I think he said it was like 60 million people or something like that were into to Q in just the United States.
Wow.
Which is massive. I would say it seems as though Trump or somebody around Trump is feeding the Q team information. There's Q and then there's Q plus.
Q plus seems to be Trump.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, it seems like that's Trump. And, I'm not a linguist, so I don't study necessarily the specifics of linguism, but I'm pretty detail oriented when it comes to linguistic analysis. And just the phraseology of Q plus and Trump, there's a strong correlation there.
Talk about throwback. This is from episode 6 of Journey to Truth.
Yeah, very beginning.
I'm telling you, like, we started off right out of the gate with some great episodes, really.
Yeah.
So then
really
this is the assignment. This is the co-creative process that we just showed you. This is Q basically giving the assignment.
You've been selected to help serve your country. Never retreat from the battlefield. Twitter, Facebook, etc. Use other platforms as a form of centralized command and control. Organize and connect. Bridge through linking. Source memes material from Battleground and our garage. Highlight and share. Take it and drop. Mission 1. Dispute, reject propaganda push through posting of research and facts. Mission 2. Support role of other digital soldiers. One falls, another stands, rises. Mission 3. Guide, awaken others through use of facts. D-Class 199 material and other relevant facts. And memes. Decouple MSDNC control of info stream. Ask counter questions to initiate thought versus repeat echo of MSDNC propaganda. I think it's saying like MSNBC, MSDNC.
Right.
Mission 4, learn to use camouflage digitally. Primary account suspended, terminated use of secondary. Mission 5, identify strengths, weaknesses, personal and designated targets. Read Twitter and Facebook plus other. Example, read memes, failure to read through the algo. So the algorithm can't read memes is what it's saying. So memes are a perfect tool. ThinkTron MCP master control program, dependence on person-to-person capture, slow response time, unidentified users. Game theory, information warfare. Welcome to the digital battlefield. Together we win. Q.
So that was basically laying down the groundwork for their PSYOP, right? If you want to call it a psychological operation, understanding the co-creative operation, what did it say in that slide? You identify the wish or need in phase 1 of the co-creative process. And then you form and reinform the intention. Then you share knowledge of current ability and situation. You identify the opportunity and partial possibilities. Then co-create a practical possibility and maintain when needed. That's exactly what Q was doing.
So
you can say it was a PSYOP. So these are just, we're not going
to. Positive PSYOP. It was a PSYOP. It was a positive PSYOP.
Right. We're not going to read through these for the sake of time, but these are just like the famous Q drops that we all heard about. Trust the plan, state of course, trust the plan. These are like the positive reinforcements for the co-creative process, right? The PSYOP. The calm before the storm, something else they would repeat. Nothing can stop what's coming. Nothing can stop what's coming. These are like the buzz phrases that got repeated. They understand they understand psychology and they understand the human's co-creative abilities, and they know what we'll do with these phrases and how it'll have a ripple effect. Where we go, when we go all, this came up a number of times. I mean, these are so good drops to read through. I mean, gosh, we could reading through all of them. It just would take forever. Like this, at what point do people wake up? I mean, how much do you have to show them, right? Enjoy the show. You're watching a movie, get the popcorn ready. These are ones that people all have problems with. Oh,
people think this is like them trying to get you to just sit back and do nothing, enjoy the show. No, that's not. It's just making a point that you're seeing a move. You're seeing like they already know the future because we're on that positive timeline. They're dealing with time travel and time viewing technology, amongst other things that they know. It's like a script playing out essentially, and also going back to what Bill Wood said, where it's like two chess players. They know exactly what moves are going to be made because they have to be made. And now checkmate is already there. There's just a few more moves that have to go and they have to play out. So what the deep state is doing is they're just trying to stall because they know the game's already over.
Right.
So the white hats know the moves are going to be made. It's a show. It's got to play out. It's not. They're not saying, "Oh, sit back and do nothing." No, the whole point of Q is to activate people so they can do something, so they know what's going on. Because you can't do something unless you know what's going on, that you're awake in the first place.
You can't.
Well, that's the whole point of Q, right? That's one of the main points.
You can't defeat your enemy unless you understand them and who
Right.
they are. You have to understand that there's even an enemy in the first place, which most of the public didn't before.
Right. Q is a military operation, and it's getting the public involved in that is a crucial part of the operation, because we have to take our power back. Therefore, we have to know what's going on in the first place so we can make a conscious choice to, from there, right? It's a military operation.
Finally, we get into the time travel part. The part I've been waiting for the whole time. Future proves past. Q looking glass.